The blistering sun beats on my forehead. I grip my fingers along the red stitching of the leather softball nestled in my hand. The batter steps up to the plate. I dig the toe of my cleats further into the pitching mound. As I prepare to pitch, my focus lies on nothing but the catcher's glove. I know my next pitch will be a strike. As I throw the ball with all my strength, the batter unleashes a hard line drive right back at me. It's all right, because I catch the ball in my glove and the batter is out. Not only has my softball glove saved me from physical harm, but it contains hidden clues to my personality, my background, and the experiences that have helped shape who I am today. On the outside of my glove, you notice my name scribbled in black permanent marker. My name is unique, and I feel this has given me the courage to be different and stand out from my peers throughout my life. Surrounding my name, you notice water stains on the leather of the glove. These stains come from practicing in the rainy spring weather in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I attended high school. As you try on my glove, you notice how easily it conforms to the shape of your hand. As you open and close the glove, you notice that all individual fingers move together with ease. This reflects how important teamwork is to me. I was captain of my softball team my senior year in high school, and I know that to accomplish any major task, everyone must move in the same direction together. If you look closely at the seams of my glove, you can imagine all the experiences they and I have been through. You can see me playing catch with my dad for the first time in my backyard. You can feel the dirt from my hand after I hit a home run and the joy I experienced after being named first team all-conference. You can see my mom, my dad, my younger sister, and my older brother always there to support me by cheering at the games. Over time, my softball glove has changed in appearance. Not only does it reveal aspects of my personality, my background, and my experiences, but the warm tone of the leather shows my own aging and transformations as I have grown up. As the famous basketball coach John Wooden once said, "Sports do not build character, they reveal it." Through my softball glove, my character is revealed.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Allie, and today I'm here to introduce you to me and my life from toe to head, starting with the toes. I have 10 of them, and in July 1985, my parents gave birth to a happy, healthy, blue-eyed girl with 10 toes and 10 fingers. Unfortunately, I was born with 2 left feet. Although all my toes were in their correct places, my right foot curved the wrong way, so I had 2 left feet. And the doctors were stumped, and so they put a tiny plaster cast on my right foot in order to reshape it. I spent the first 2 months of my life with a cast on my foot, while my mother spent time explaining why her precious baby was already in a cast. Well, today I realize how lucky I am to have normal feet. I mean, I played 8 years of hockey, 3 years of tennis, and 2 years of volleyball. I love to dance and jog and buy shoes, and try doing those things with 2 left feet. Next is my legs. As you can see, I'm very tall. And when a 6'7" man marries a 5'10" woman, they tend to create big children. And it isn't easy growing up taller than all of your friends and taller than most boys, too. I mean, my height has taught me a lot. For a while I was self-conscious and I thought that I stuck out and was different from everyone else. But then I learned to love my height, the attention that I got, and the fact that I was unique. And my height had taught me to be comfortable with myself and my appearance. Finally, moving up to the head, the most important part. And I have a good head on my shoulders. You may notice the hair, which has been highlighted. Last summer, I worked as a receptionist at a local hair salon, but I like to think of it more as an experience than as a job. I learned a lot about life and responsibility, as well as what can happen when 10 people, mostly middle-aged women, work in close quarters with each other. So now you've all met me, Allie, from toe to head. I'm an active, fun-loving, proud, and motivated person who's ready to take on the world. Being a freshman in college is a new experience, but I know that all 6 feet of me will be successful.
Gordon Parks once said, "I choose my camera as a weapon against all the things I dislike about America: poverty, racism, discrimination." Parks, an extraordinary photographer, gives insight into my character, passions, and concerns in this one profound quotation. I began photography during the fall of my freshman year in high school. After learning simple techniques of printing in the darkroom and studying the works of influential photographers, I developed an interest in this art that I've continued to pursue ever since. In addition to taking 3 other photo courses, I also worked as a photographer and even received some awards for some of my photographs. My camera is therefore an effective tool that expresses my values, ambitions, and views in a literal sense. Being able to capture an idea or moment in a tangible art has always amazed me. The product that I create by the snap of a shutter greatly describes the way I see the world around me. The different angles, the way I choose to frame a photo, and my subject matter all shed light in describing who I am as a person. By photographing the world around me, I can also express my sense of beauty. This may include an abstract silhouette of the contours of a woman's body, the way the sun accents a stairwell at a certain time of day, the motion of water flowing down a channel of rocks, or the smile in a child's face. My camera sheds light on my emotions and concerns as well. It can describe a feeling or an issue in a single moment: the loneliness of a stark, dreary winter day, or the hunger in a homeless child's eyes. So you can see, photography is an outlet for my energy, my ideas, my creativity, and even my frustrations. Through the lens of a camera, I can articulate my feelings and express myself to the world.
Paul Madsen's first memory in life was sitting on his grandmother's lap and being fed his favorite food, an orange. Surprisingly, there are actually many similarities between Paul and his favorite food. Much like an orange has tough skin, so does Paul, which is evident by his choice of a major hobby, playing rugby. Paul started playing rugby while he was growing up near London, England. Rugby is described by many as the roughest sport in the world, a fact Paul can attest to because he's broken 2 ribs, 2 bones in his foot, and fractured his jaw while playing the sport. But rugby's brutal nature hasn't stopped Paul from pursuing the sport to its highest level, including leading his local team to the European Championship game for its age group. But, like an orange, Paul's tough skin can be misleading. Just as an orange has a softer inside, so does Paul. He's both a caring person and a humanitarian. He's done lots of charity work throughout his life, and this past summer he went to Namibia in southern Africa and helped build schools so that the local children could have a chance to be educated. Paul also helped teach some of the children English and distributed basic health products that the children had been lacking. Paul views it as an obligation to give back to those less fortunate because he's been so blessed in life, especially by his loving family, which includes his mother, father, and 3 younger brothers. Like an orange about to be picked from the tree, Paul has absolutely no idea where he will end up. After growing up in England, he's spending his first full year away from his homeland and is just starting to adjust to American culture. So far, he's enjoying his new home immensely and is very much looking forward to furthering his education here at the university. As for a profession, Paul is not sure yet what he wants to do. He thinks he'd like to have a job doing some sort of charity work, or he might want to coach rugby back in England. But no matter where life takes him, one thing is for sure: Paul will eat lots of oranges along the way.
As you hit the road with your best friend in a trip cross-country in an old convertible, you see so many different sights that it's easy to overlook the one constant that is always in the same place and that is always there. The lane divider is always present and dead center in the middle of the road. Our classmate Beth Mahalski fits right in the middle, just like the lane divider. Beth was born right in between her older sister Katie and her younger brother Max by her parents Carol and Phil. Perhaps it is not surprising then that when it comes to having fun, Beth usually sticks to the middle of the road. Even though she is a shy person, she loves to goof around and have a good time. She loves any water sport, whether it's water skiing, swimming, or riding a wave runner, but she won't take it to the extreme by bungee jumping or skydiving. On the other hand, you won't catch Beth sitting around all day turning into a couch potato. In fact, one of Beth's favorite activities is playing competitive volleyball. Her love for this game gives her a thirst comparable to the one you would get if you were on the open road on a hot day. And when you speed up while driving on the road, the lines speed faster too. This same thing happened to Beth while she played varsity volleyball in high school for 3 years. The competition increased, and so did the level of play. She loves the game and plays with a fierce passion, but she knows it's not everything in life. She thought long and hard about whether she was going to play here at the university, but her thirst for the game was conquered by her hunger to achieve academic success, and so she decided to focus solely on her schoolwork. Beth followed a road to college that was already paved, and to her, very familiar. She was born and raised here in Madison, Wisconsin, and she attended Edgewood High School where she was a superb student. When it came time for college, she chose to stay close to home and attend the University of Wisconsin. But just because Beth is going to college close to home doesn't mean that she will never move in another direction. She aspires to become an interior decorator and designer in a large city such as New York. While there's no way to know whether she will in fact achieve this dream one day, we can all be sure that as Beth travels down the road of her life, she will be steady and constant as that middle lane divider.
Six months ago, my 78-year-old grandmother was quickly losing her independence. Severe arthritis in both knees hampered her ability to take care of herself. Shopping, getting around the neighborhood, even walking down her front steps was becoming almost impossible. Pain medications helped somewhat, but the side effects created their own problems. Then her doctor suggested acupuncture. My grandmother was skeptical at first, but she was willing to try just about anything. She did, and the results were miraculous. After 6 weeks, her pain and stiffness were significantly reduced. She was able to take care of her apartment again. She could get out on her own to go shopping, to visit friends and family, and to do the other things that her arthritis had prevented in the past. Acupuncture restored her quality of life and her independence. My grandmother's story is not unique. Performed for well over 2,000 years in China and other parts of Asia, acupuncture is becoming more and more popular in the U.S. and other Western countries for one simple reason: it works. Impressed by my grandmother's experience, I began acupuncture treatments for my migraine headaches, and now my headaches are completely gone. Not surprisingly, I wanted to learn more about this treatment that produced such miraculous results for both my grandmother and myself. Today, I will share part of what I have learned by explaining what happens when you receive an acupuncture treatment, how acupuncture works, the kinds of medical conditions that can be treated by acupuncture, and the growing use of acupuncture in combination with Western medical techniques. Let's start by looking at a typical acupuncture treatment. Acupuncture is the insertion of needles into the skin to achieve a balanced flow of energy, which in turn restores and preserves health. To prevent a chance of contamination from one person to another, acupuncturists in the U.S. use sterilized needles that are individually packaged and are disposed of after a single use. I realize that the notion of having needles stuck into you may seem frightening, but the needles are so thin that the process is painless. Acupuncture needles are much smaller than the needles used for drawing blood or getting shots. Here are some needles that I received from my acupuncturist. After my speech, I'll pass them around so that you can see how incredibly light and small they are. They are so thin, about the thickness of a human hair, that you can hardly tell when they're inserted. And there's usually no sensation, other than pain relief, once they have been inserted. After being left in for 20 or 30 minutes, while you lie in a darkened room, the needles are removed and the treatment is over. Now that you know what happens when you're treated by an acupuncturist, you're probably wondering how acupuncture works. The process is explained by Dr. Felix Mann, president of the Medical Acupuncture Society, in his book, Acupuncture, The Ancient Chinese Art of Healing and How It Works Scientifically. According to traditional Chinese medicine, every life process is based on the flow of vital energy through the body. This energy is known in Chinese as qi and flows along channels or pathways called meridians. These meridians are shown in this visual aid. As you can see, they cover the entire body, running from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet and down both arms. When the free flow of energy through these meridians is blocked, the result is pain, illness, disease, or other physical problems. The aim of acupuncture is to restore the open flow of energy through these meridians. This is done by placing needles at specific points on the meridians. Altogether, there are more than 1,000 acupuncture points on the meridians. These points have been mapped out over the centuries with scientific precision. In China, there is a saying, "There is no pain if there is free flow. If there is pain, there is no free flow." Although acupuncture is based on a different view of the body from that held by Western doctors, the evidence is clear that it works in treating a wide range of medical conditions. The World Health Organization lists more than 40 conditions that can be effectively treated with acupuncture, including ear, nose, and throat ailments, asthma and other respiratory problems, and nervous system and muscular disorders. A study in the Annals of Internal Medicine confirms that acupuncture can relieve low back pain, while the American Cancer Society reports that acupuncture may even help smokers kick the habit. People also use acupuncture to build immune system, to control allergies, and to combat depression and anxiety. Of course, you can't use acupuncture to heal a broken arm, but people in Asia often use acupuncture during surgery instead of Western anesthesia, and it can speed recovery time after surgery. In light of all of this, it is not surprising that a number of clinics and hospitals are combining acupuncture with Western medicine in an effort to provide the patients the benefits of both. For example, Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, the third oldest hospital in the U.S., has added acupuncture to its wellness center. Positive results have also been seen at the Mattel Children's Hospital at UCLA. Dr. Lonnie Zeltzer, director of the hospital's pediatric pain program, confirms that acupuncture really does help. Most children accept acupuncture and, in fact, really feel good about it. Another example of the integration of acupuncture with Western medicine is at the Wasser Pain Management Center at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto, Canada. Neurologist Alan Gordon, director of the center, says that introducing acupuncture into the hospital expands the treatment available to chronic pain sufferers and provides multiple options of care to our patients. The National Institutes for Health report that more than 8 million Americans have tried acupuncture, and its use throughout the rest of the Western world is growing fast. Today we've learned what happens during an acupuncture treatment, how acupuncture works, some of the illnesses that can be treated with acupuncture, and the growing integration of acupuncture with Western approaches to medicine. I hope that you now know more about this ancient medical practice and the benefits that it can provide. After years of skepticism about acupuncture, the West is finally beginning to recognize that acupuncture is a highly effective way to improve health and reduce pain and suffering. Just ask my grandmother.
Okay. Chili peppers can be incredibly hot, but they're still one of my favorite things to eat. Whether it's Mexican food, Thai food, or plain old Texas chili. The spicier the better in my view. So when thinking about a speech topic, I thought it would be a really neat idea to do it on chili peppers. Chili peppers have been around for thousands of years. Their scientific name is capsicum. I think that's how it's pronounced. They're different from black peppers, which come from Asia. Chili peppers come from South America. In fact, as you can see from this map, they began somewhere around Bolivia, Brazil. They spread everywhere else after Columbus came to the New World. The pleasure and pain of eating chili peppers comes from a chemical called capsaicin, something like that. Here's a chili pepper that I cut in half. I know it's kind of small, you can't see it, but there are these veins and seeds in there, and that's where the capsaicin is held. It's where all the heat is. As one of the books I read said, there are two ways to measure the heat of the chili pepper. The HPLC method is more scientific, so scientists prefer to use it. This guy that I held up is an orange habanero pepper, and if you eat it, it'll burn your mouth up. So if you do eat a hot pepper, don't try rinsing out your mouth with water. Instead, drink some milk or some yogurt or some other stuff like that. Milk also helps if you burn your skin from contacting with a pepper. If you're attacked by a mugger or a robber, you can protect yourself by using a pepper spray. The spray burns the eyes and skin and gives you enough time to escape. According to Jack Challam, chili peppers also have lots of medical benefits. They're used to reduce arthritis pain, to help with indigestion, and cure baldness. Well, I guess that's all I have to say about chili peppers. Can you imagine life without chili peppers? I know I can't. So, thank you. Imagine your mouth burning like wildfire, your eyes squirting out uncontrollable tears, and your face red and sweating profusely. Are you sick? No, you just took a bite of a screaming hot chili pepper. Congratulations, you're partaking in a worldwide tradition that has been spicing up lives and diets for thousands of years. My own desire for spicy meals led me to investigate why I get red in the face and salivate over the mere thought of eating a spicy chili. In the process, I've discovered there's a lot more to chili peppers than I'd ever imagined. Today, I'd like to share with you what I've learned about the history of chili peppers, why they can be so spicy, what to do if you eat a too hot pepper, and some of the ways chili peppers are used other than in foods. The chili pepper has a long and fascinating history. Its scientific name is capsicum. Now, this is different than the common black pepper you have on your dining room table, whose scientific name is Piper nigrum. Black pepper was first cultivated in Asia, and it was prized in the West as early as the Roman Empire. In contrast, the chili pepper originated more than 5,000 years ago in South America, near what is today Bolivia and Brazil. Over time, it spread to Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. But it wasn't until Columbus came in the 1490s that the chili pepper became known to the rest of the world. As stated in the Cambridge World History of Food, within 50 years after Columbus returned to Spain with sample plants, chili peppers could be found growing in coastal areas from Africa to Asia. From there, they spread inland until they had taken hold of the taste buds of people around the globe. Today, they're most widely used in Mexico, Central and South America, Africa, Asia, the Balkans, and the United States. Carolyn Dilley and Susan Belsinger, authors of the Chili Pepper book, estimate that 25% of the world's adult population uses chili peppers as a part of their daily diet. Now that we know a little bit about the history of chili pepper, let's see why they can put such a fire in our belly. The pleasure and pain involved in eating chili pepper comes from a chemical called capsaicin. Capsaicin is concentrated in the pepper's veins and seeds, pictured here. To enjoy the flavor of chili pepper without burning your stomach or mouth, avoid the veins and seeds when cooking or eating them. P.W. Boslin tells us in the book Spices, Herbs, and Edible Fungi that chili pepper intensity is measured in two ways. The first was developed by Wilbur L. Scoville in 1912. This method uses trained testers to measure chili peppers in Scoville heat units. These range from 0 to 300,000. According to Bosland, this test is subjective because it relies on the individual tester's sensitivity to capsaicin. The second, more widely used test is called the high-performance liquid chromatography test, more commonly known as HPLC. This is also measured in Scoville heat units, but it's more objective. The chili pods are dried and ground, and then the chemicals responsible for the heat are analyzed and rated according to pungency. The hottest pepper on record is the deceptively small and unimposing orange habanero pepper. It's been rated as high as 300,000 Scoville heat units, and it's so powerful that some people have an allergic reaction just by touching it, which is why I'm holding it by the stem. The mildest pepper is the standard green bell, which you see at the grocery store every day. It's been rated at 0 Scoville heat units. If you eat an orange habanero pepper, it's important to know how to deal with the burning sensation. Whatever you do, do not rinse your mouth with water. Dave DeWitt, in the Chili Pepper Encyclopedia, tells us capsaicin is not soluble in water, and even if you drink a gallon of ice water, it's not going to help. According to the Chili Pepper Institute at New Mexico State University, the best solution is to consume a dairy product such as milk or yogurt, which contain a substance that strips away capsaicin from the interior cells of your mouth. This is why some hot foods, like Indian foods, are served with yogurt sauce. Now, if you burn your skin, the Institute recommends cleaning the area with rubbing alcohol and then soaking it with milk. Above all, remember 2 things. First, always wear gloves when you cut a hot pepper such as a habanero. Second, never rub your eyes when working with hot chili peppers. Although chili peppers are prized above all for the flavor they add to food, they have other benefits as well. Pepper sprays have become a standard weapon for the personal protection of individuals and law enforcement agencies. The New York Times reports sales of pepper sprays have risen steadily and show no sign of slowing. Chili peppers are also valued for their medicinal properties. According to Jack Challam, author of the Nutrition Reporter, there have been more than 1,300 medical studies on capsaicin, the active ingredient in chili peppers. Moderate doses have been proven to aid digestion, reduce hypertension, improve circulation, and help dissolve blood clots. Preliminary research by Professor Kenji Okajima at Japan's Kumamoto University School of Medicine suggests that a combination of chili peppers and soybeans can promote hair growth and might hold promise as a cure for baldness. In closing, it's difficult to imagine our lives without the spice added by chili peppers. From their origin in South America to their current popularity around the world, peppers have been used not only to flavor our food, but also to improve our health and personal safety. While it remains to be seen whether or not chili peppers can actually cure baldness, we can be sure this ancient plant will continue to find new uses in our modern age.
It's move-in day. While everyone is rushing around carrying boxes, computers, TVs, and stereos to make their dorm rooms feel a little more like home, my mom is carrying wind chimes. Don't wind chimes belong outside, in a garden, on a patio, anywhere but a dorm room? She had strategically placed them so that each time I opened the door, it would swing into them. It was all because of Feng Shui. According to Simon Brown, author of the book Practical Feng Shui, which literally means wind and water, is the art of designing your home to promote success in life, health, wealth, and happiness. Feng Shui originated in China over 4,000 years ago and is still practiced throughout the world today. While it may seem like only ancient Chinese philosophers can master this art, even college students like us can learn simple techniques for improving the flow of energy in our dorm rooms, homes, or apartments. With my mom's enthusiasm behind me, I decided to research this topic some more on my own. First, I'll explain a little bit more about what Feng Shui is, and then give you some tips on putting this ancient art into practice. As I mentioned in my introduction, the ancient Chinese art of Feng Shui is a method of maximizing energy flow by manipulating your environment. Pam K. Tollefson, director of Feng Shui design, believes that Feng Shui changes and harmonizes the environment. There are many components of Feng Shui, the most important of which is Qi. According to Sarah Rosbach, author of the book Feng Shui, The Chinese Art of Placement, Qi is defined as the energy flow that connects all things, and it has a profound impact on our lives. Simon Brown describes Qi as carrying thoughts, ideas, emotions, dreams, and energy from the environment. Practitioners of Feng Shui maintain that it can move through air, people, buildings, windows, and doors. The flow of Qi is the basis of Feng Shui. The aim of Feng Shui is to improve this Qi, which is accomplished by altering your surroundings. There's good and bad Qi that flows throughout buildings such as this one. For example, the sharp corners on this lectern create negative Qi because sharp corners cause Qi to swirl, creating confusion or illness. Another problem in this room is that there are no windows. Sunlight is crucial because it's the main medium that keeps Qi moving. According to its followers, Feng Shui has many benefits once a home or office is arranged according to the principles of Feng Shui. Decreased stress and a better night's sleep is one advantage. Improved health, motivation, relaxation, love, and romance can even occur. Feng Shui helps create more harmonious family relationships. Overall, it can help you feel more in control and might even win you fame and respect. Nancy Lee Wydra, author of the book Feng Shui, 150 Simple Solutions for Health or Happiness in Your Home or Office, believes that Feng Shui is beneficial in the workplace as well. Balanced Qi creates a good start to a new career and growing business, while evenly circulated Qi throughout the body can help you to be more assertive in the workplace. Now that we've taken a look at what Feng Shui is, let's put this newfound knowledge into practice. To illustrate, we'll look at how Feng Shui works in a typical dorm room. Since we don't have control over the actual structure of our dorm room, we're forced to work with what we have. Let's start with the ideal floor covering. Winifred Gallagher in The Power of Place says that soft materials slow Qi energy and create a relaxing atmosphere. Few dorm rooms are carpeted, so make sure to cover your floor with a soft fitted carpet. Next, we'll look at the placement of your bed in your dorm room. In Practical Feng Shui, Simon Brown claims that the direction you sleep in affects your whole life, as well as how well you sleep. Feng Shui recommends having the head of the bed face east because it's good for career building, ambition, getting things done, and ideal for growth. Or, if you're having trouble sleeping, try having the head of the bed face north. This will enhance feelings of peace, tranquility, and spirituality. No matter what direction the head of your bed faces, make sure that you can see the door and the windows from your bed. Once it's located in the ideal position, make sure to cover your bed with cotton, linen, or silk sheets to create a harmonious flow. Synthetic materials have a negative effect on Qi. Finally, keep your curtains tightly closed at night to slow the flow of Qi energy through your window. Now that we've looked at the possibilities with what's already in your dorm room, let's see what we can add to enhance the already flowing Qi. For starters, try adding a wide mirror on one end of your dorm room to reflect Qi energy across the entire room. Most dorm rooms provide harsh electric lighting. To soften this light, bring in lamps with shades on them. You can also add simple elements to enhance the already flowing Qi. Plants are always a good addition because of their soothing effect. As my mom insisted, try placing wind chimes next to your door so they sound each time you open it. Larry Lapone, author of Feng Shui, Therapy for the New Millennium, says that wind chimes cleanse and purify the Qi energy already in the room. In addition to hanging wind chimes near your door, you can hang crystals such as this one in a window. The crystals bring energy from the outside environment into your dorm room. Adding water, such as a bowl of water or a fish tank, can also bring fresh Qi energy into the room. If you place a bowl of water in your room, place it in the east or the southeast and refill it every day. According to advocates of Feng Shui, this water element can help you attain your goals and might even help you study for those midterms. Finally, for those of you who tend to be a bit messy, beware. Untidiness slows the flow of Qi energy. Make sure to store everything in cupboards or storage areas and remember to stay organized. In conclusion, we have taken a look at one of China's most time-honored traditions. We've seen what Feng Shui is and then put this ancient art into practice. Although we looked at how Feng Shui works in a typical dorm room, you can apply the principles of Feng Shui to your home, office, or apartment. Now as I walk in my dorm room, I no longer cringe at those wind chimes loud clanging or avoid touching them at all costs. Instead, I swing the door right into them and smile. It may be noisy, but it sure is good chi.
Imagine this. You're at home enjoying dinner with your family when you glance around the table and you notice your uncle suddenly has a painful and terrified look in his eyes. He grabs his chest and moments later falls to the floor unconscious. Would you know how to handle the situation while everyone else around you is panicking? Would you know that your uncle was probably suffering from a heart attack and needed cardiopulmonary resuscitation or CPR? As a lifeguard, I was required to become certified in CPR, so I have been certified for 4 years. In an emergency such as this, it is not your job to treat the illness, but you are to keep the victim alive until trained medical professionals can come and take over for you. Tonight, I want to explain to you the life-saving process of surveying an emergency, contacting an emergency medical service, and starting CPR if needed. Let's start with the first step of surveying an emergency. According to the American Red Cross, the first step in any emergency is to survey the scene. The most important thing to remember in administering first aid is to make sure you and the victim are safe. You don't want to put yourself or the victim in any more danger. If it is safe to proceed and the victim is not moving, check the victim for responsiveness. Call the victim's name if you know it. Shake him or her and ask if he or she is okay. Then call for help. Now that you have checked out the scene and know the victim is unconscious, the second step in any emergency is to contact an emergency medical service. An emergency medical service can be any number of contacts. If the service is offered in your area, call 911. But if 911 isn't offered in your town, call the hospital or the police directly. And if you do not have those numbers, you can always call the operator and he or she will contact you with the correct officials right away. Designate one person to contact EMS. If there is no one around, you must call the emergency medical service yourself. Give them your name, address, the victim's name, condition, and the aid being given. It's particularly important to remember to let the dispatcher hang up first so you know that he or she has no more questions and an ambulance can be sent right away. After the EMS has been called, return to the victim. First, position the victim. Move the victim in the correct position, trying to keep the person's body as stable as possible, protecting the head and the back in case there has been any injury to the backbone or to the spinal cord. Position yourself next to the victim's shoulders. Then check the ABCs. Open the airway, check the breathing, and check the circulation or the pulse. First, open the airway. Take the hand that's closest to the victim's head and put it on their forehead. Next, take 2 fingers of the other hand and put it on the bony part of their chin. Tilt back. Next, check for breathing. Look, listen, and feel for the breath. Look for the chest rising and falling. Listen for the breath in your ear and feel the breath on your cheek. Do that for about 5 seconds. If there is no breathing, you must give 2 full breaths right away. Take 2 fingers of the hand that's on the victim's forehead and pinch the nose shut. Then take your mouth and seal the victim's mouth, giving 2 full breaths so that no air escapes while you're trying to breathe. Then check the circulation or check the pulse. Take 2 fingers and put it on the center of the victim's throat and slide it into the groove that's next to the throat. Do this for about 5 seconds. And if there is no pulse, chest compressions must be started right away. First, position your hands on the victim's chest. Take 2 fingers of the hand that's closest to the victim's feet and slide it up the bottom of the rib cage till you reach the notch that is directly beneath the breastbone. Then, take your other hand and place it right next to your 2 fingers. Weave your fingers inside your other hand. According to the American Red Cross, while keeping the correct hand position, straighten your arms and lock your elbows so that your shoulders are directly over your hands. While in this position, enough pressure will be created to compress the chest 1.5 to 2 inches for an adult. Do this 15 times, counting out loud. 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and, 5 and, 6 and. Continue the cycles of breathing and compressions 4 times. After the 4th time, check the victim's pulse again. And if there is still no pulse, continue these cycles until the victim breathes again or until trained medical professionals arrive and can take over for you. In conclusion, this short speech was to show you the importance of surveying an emergency, contacting an emergency medical service, and starting CPR. If you take the course, you will learn more about the details of taking CPR. Now, let's go back to the emergency in the beginning of my speech. Because of your knowledge of the 3 steps in administering CPR, you can be that vital link in an emergency, and you can help save a life.
Do you know what I just told you? The message I communicated probably escaped most of you. Communication through hand motions is something we do all the time without even thinking about it. For most of us, it's a supplement to spoken language. But for many deaf and hearing impaired people, sign language isn't just a supplement, it's a primary mode of communication. I'm not an expert in sign language, but I've been interested in it for several years. My father's the treasurer for a group of deaf and hearing impaired people, and I've attended some functions with that group. At those times, I had the chance to learn bits and pieces of sign language. I also had the chance to learn more in researching for this speech. In this speech, I'd like to first give you a bit of background about sign language. Then I'd like to teach you how to sign one important sentence, the one I started with. You are my friend. By sharing this sentence with you, I hope to help you see that sign language is just as expressive as spoken language. Let's start with a little background. There are 2 broad categories of sign language used in America. One is signed English, and the other is American Sign Language. Both use most of the same hand gestures. Signed English usually uses one hand gesture for each spoken word and presents them in the same order. On the other hand, American Sign Language, also called ASL, doesn't always have exactly one sign for each spoken word and might present them in a different order. This distinction will become clear during the demonstration. No one knows exactly how many people use sign language as their primary language today. The National Center for Health Statistics estimates that about 20 million Americans have some sort of hearing impairment. Depending on the exact definition of deafness, about 500,000 to 2 million of these people are deaf. Most sources agree that American Sign Language is the 4th most used language in the United States today, after English, Spanish, and French. Some people think that sign language is a primitive substitute for spoken language, but in fact, sign language is just as rich and expressive as spoken language. For example, Karen Nakamura states in the online Deaf Resources Library that American Sign Language should not be considered in any way to be a broken, mimed, or gestural form of English. According to Nakamura, ASL is a complex, full, and natural language in its own right, with its own beautiful grammar. Keeping these points in mind about sign language, let's return to the sentence I started with and see if we can learn the signs for you are my friend. First, make the sign for you with your right hand, extend your index finger, and just point at a classmate. The word R is actually interesting because it starts with the letter R. To make the sign for the letter R, extend your index finger and wrap your next finger around it. This is a sign for the letter R, and now we're going to make the word R. Just put your fingertips under your chin and arc outward. My is easy. It's just an open right hand. Put your palm inward on your chest. Friend's a little trickier. It takes both hands. Extend your index finger on each hand now with your other fingers folded down. And now bend each index finger. Now you're going to hook together, hanging the back and knuckles of your right hand outward from your left hand. And now reverse. Then back and knuckles of your left hand hanging outward from your right hand. Now please tell a classmate these 4 signs slowly. You are my friend. And now try to sign the whole sentence quickly. You are my friend. What you just learned was signed English. In American Sign Language, the word are is generally implied, so you wouldn't need to use it. So the sentence in ASL would usually just be, you're my friend. In closing, I hope you learned that sign language is just as expressive as spoken language. Think back to the way we signed friend. That sign isn't an arbitrary combination of empty symbols. It's a visual depiction of the way friends really are, interdependent, interlocked. In addition to learning how to sign the sentence, you are my friend, I hope you also take away from this speech a new appreciation for the complexities of sign language.
In China, there's a saying, you won't be considered a great person until you've been to the Great Wall. I visited the wall last year while I was in China. I don't know if it made me a great person, but I do know that the wall is indeed great. As you can see from this photograph, the wall is great in beauty, with its long arms resting on rolling hills and its towers peering across the valleys. The wall stretches across more than half of China, from the sea in the east past Beijing to Gansu province in the west. At a total length of 4,000 miles, it is the longest human-made construction in the world. If the Great Wall were transported to the United States and stretched out in a straight line, it would run from New York City completely across the Atlantic Ocean, past Spain, England, and France, and all the way to Berlin, Germany. Today, I would like to share with you some of the wonders of the Great Wall. I will focus on the three major stages of its construction, moving from the first phase during the Qin dynasty to the second phase during the Han dynasty, and concluding with the third phase during the Ming dynasty. Let's start more than 2,000 years ago, when the first parts of the wall were built. The beginning of the Great Wall as we know it dates to 221 BC, when Emperor Qin Shi Huang ordered his top general to lead 300,000 soldiers in rebuilding and connecting separate old walls that had been built by princes of warring states. In just 12 years, Qin had a 3,000-mile wall using primarily wood frames filled with stones and compacted earth. While the wall proved effective in keeping out the tribes who threatened to invade China from the north, it created dissent within China. According to Arthur Waldron's The Great Wall of China, From History to Myth, ditches on the roadside were filled with corpses of men who had been forced into construction of the Great Wall. Compelled into hard labor and burdened by heavy taxes to finance the project, the people grew unhappy, and a year after Qin's death, the peasants revolted. While the wall stood, the empire collapsed. The second major period of construction for the Great Wall occurred during the Han Dynasty, which lasted from 206 BC to 220 AD. Emperor Wu Di ordered expansion of the existing wall to protect land won when his armies defeated the northern tribes. Workers added 300 miles to existing wall. They built wooden frames, which they filled with willow reeds and a mixture of fine gravel and water. As you can see from this picture of the ruins of the Han Wall, it was very different in construction and appearance from the Great Wall as it exists today. The third major building period of the Great Wall occurred 1,100 years later, during the Ming Dynasty. In 1368, during the first year of the Ming Dynasty, Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang ordered more expansion of the wall. Subsequent Ming emperors strengthened and extended the wall further until it reached its current length. Builders of the Ming Wall made three important architectural advancements, which resulted in the distinctive features of the wall as it exists today. You can see those features especially well in this photograph. First, rather than using earth and stone, they used kiln-fired bricks to create a stronger wall. Second, they erected more than 3,000 beacon towers to watch the mountain pass for potential invaders. These towers rise from the wall like mighty outposts and are one of the most striking aspects of the wall when you see them in person. Third, the Ming builders made the wall so large that it would be almost impossible to break through. In fact, the wall is so wide that soldiers could ride several horses abreast along the top of the wall. In conclusion, the Great Wall of China enjoys a rich history. Built over the course of more than 2,500 years during the Qin, Han, and Ming dynasties, it is a magnificent feat of human engineering. While the wall no longer continues to defend China from invaders, it does continue to play a central role in Chinese culture and international identity. Now that you know a little more about the wall, I hope you will have a fuller appreciation of why it is regarded as great, not just in China, but throughout the world.
On a chilly November night 2 years ago, a Ford Explorer was charging down a California highway. The 16-year-old driver and 3 of his friends were returning from a concert in Los Angeles. These young people were good students, gifted athletes, talented artists and musicians, and none were drunk or impaired by drugs. They were, however, driving too fast, and the driver lost control of the car. The car went into a ditch and hit a tree. The driver and 1 passenger were killed. The other 2 passengers escaped with severe injuries. One of these passengers was my nephew. Today he is finishing high school in a wheelchair he will occupy for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, tragic auto accidents involving teenage drivers are much too common in all parts of the United States. After researching the subject for my speech, I have come to the same conclusion as the experts, that the best way to prevent such accidents is to raise the age for full driving privileges to 18 or older. I know from my audience analysis questionnaire that most of you oppose such a plan. But I also know from my questionnaire that most of you recognize that 16 and 17-year-old drivers are less skilled and less responsible than older drivers. So I ask you to listen with an open mind while we discuss some of the problems associated with teenage driving, some of the major causes of the problems, and a plan that will go a long way towards solving some of the problems. No matter how one looks at the evidence, it all leads to one fact. There are too many motor vehicle accidents, deaths, and injuries involving teenage drivers. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, while teenagers make up 7% of the nation's licensed drivers, they represent 14% of all motor vehicle fatalities. The NHTSA reports that last year, 3,657 drivers aged 16 to 20 were killed in automobile accidents. In addition to killing the drivers, these same accidents took the lives of 2,384 teenage passengers. But these accidents didn't affect teenagers alone. They also took the lives of 2,625 people aged 21 or older. So the total number of people killed last year in automobile accidents involving teenage drivers was 8,666, almost exactly the number of full-time students at this campus. Evidence also shows that the younger the driver, the greater the risk. According to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, 16-year-olds have the highest percentage of crashes involving speeding, the highest percentage of single vehicle crashes, and the highest percentage of crashes involving driver error. Moreover, as USA Today reports, 16-year-olds are 3 times more likely to be involved in fatal crashes than our older drivers. Now that we've seen the extent of the problem, we can explore its causes. One of the causes is inexperience. New drivers just haven't had enough time on the road to develop their driving skills. But inexperience is far from the only cause of the problem. After all, there will always be inexperienced drivers, even if the driving age is raised to 21 or even to 25. A second cause is revealed by brain research. Findings from the National Institute of Mental Health show that the brain of an average 16-year-old has not developed to the point where he or she is able to effectively judge the risk of a given situation. Dr. Jay Geed, who led the research team that conducted the study, states, when a smart, talented, very mature teen does something that a parent might call stupid, it's this underdeveloped part of the brain that has most likely failed. Stephen Lowenstein, a medical professor at the University of Colorado, has just finished a 5-year study comparing the traffic records of 16-year-old drivers to drivers aged 25 to 49. His conclusion? Deliberate risk-taking and dangerous and aggressive driving behaviors predominated among the 16-year-olds. A third cause of motor vehicle fatalities among teenage drivers is night driving. According to the Washington Post, when 16-year-olds get behind the wheel of a car after dark, the likelihood of having an accident increases several times over. Of course, nighttime driving is less safe for everyone, but it becomes particularly dangerous when combined with a young driver's inexperience and reduced ability to gauge risk. Finally, there is the presence of teenage passengers in the car. We all know what it's like to drive with our friends. The stereo's up loud, cell phones are ringing, everybody's laughing and having a good time. The problem is that all these factors create distractions. Distractions that too often result in accidents, injury, and death. Alan Williams, chief scientist at the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, reports that one teenage passenger doubles the risk of a fatal crash. With 2 or more passengers, the risk is 5 times greater. Remember my nephew's accident I mentioned at the start of my speech? There were 3 passengers in the car. So the extent of the problem is clear. So too are its causes. What steps can we take to help bring about a solution? First, we need a national policy that no one can receive a learner's permit until age 16, and no one can receive full driving privileges until age 18. This will allow 16-year-olds time to gain driving experience before having an unrestricted license, and to reach a stage of brain development where they are better able to handle the risk and responsibility of driving. Second, we need to restrict nighttime driving so as to keep younger drivers off the road when conditions are riskiest. Some states have tried to address this problem by banning teenagers from driving after midnight or 1 a.m. But as the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety reports, these laws don't go far enough. According to the Institute, we need a 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. limit until drivers reach the age of 18. Third, we need to restrict the number of teenage passengers in cars driven by younger drivers. In fact, says Kevin Quinlan from the National Transportation Safety Board, passenger restriction is the first and foremost measure you can take to reduce teenage driving fatalities. According to Quinlan, the optimal policy would be to bar drivers age 17 or younger from having any passengers in the car unless the riders are adults or family members. Drivers from the age of 17 to 18 should not be allowed to carry more than 1 teenage passenger. Now, I know all of this might sound harsh and perhaps inconvenient, but the evidence is clear that it would save a significant number of lives. If you want to discuss harsh, said one father whose 17-year-old son died in an accident 3 years ago, I can talk to you about harsh. It's being awakened at 2:30 in the morning by the State Patrol, telling you that your son has just been killed. Everyone in this room has lived to college age. But this year alone, thousands of teenage drivers will not live that long. And they won't live that long due to factors that we can prevent. There's no way to solve all the problems we encounter on the road. But we can do something to help save the lives of younger drivers and make the roads safer for all of us. As I said earlier, this might sound harsh or inconvenient, but I know my nephew would gladly trade both for the chance to walk again.
Seattle, 9 young athletes gathered at the starting line of the 100-yard dash. At the gun, they all started off, not exactly in a dash, but with the desire to run the race to the finish and win. All except one little boy, who stumbled on the asphalt, tumbled over a couple of times, and began to cry. The other runners heard the boy's cry, they stopped, they looked back, then they all went back to the boy's side. Every single one of them. One girl with Down syndrome kissed him and said, "This will make it better." Then all 9 linked arms and walked to the finish line, together. These athletes were not competing on national television. They were not sponsored or idolized, but they were given the opportunity to flourish under the glow of their own spotlight, to feel the brush of the ribbon cross their chests as they ran through their own finish line in their own Olympics, the Special Olympics. Founded in 1968, Special Olympics invited the world to let go of limiting views, unyielding prejudices, and ignorant misconceptions about people with cognitive disabilities, and to embrace the idea that they can be respected, valued, contributing members of society. Just think, one of the kids who ran through that finish line could have fallen into your arms, or maybe one day could be your own child. After working as a volunteer for the Special Olympics and doing additional research for this speech, I'd like to encourage you to become involved as a volunteer for the Special Olympics. We'll start by looking at the need for volunteers. According to the Special Olympics website, more than 1.3 million people participate in the Special Olympics around the world. Participants must be at least 8 years old and be identified as having a cognitive or intellectual disability. There are currently 200 Special Olympics programs running in over 150 countries. So as Special Olympics continues to grow, so does the need for volunteers. Here in Wisconsin, there are 10,000 athletes and 3,500 volunteer coaches. But because of all the individual attention required by Special Olympics athletes, there's always a need for more volunteer coaches, or for loads of other volunteers as well. Now you know the need for Special Olympics volunteers, so the question is, what can you do to help? The answer is, become a volunteer. The most obvious way to become a volunteer is to become a coach. Now you don't have to be a great athlete, you don't have to have any prior coaching experience. Special Olympics offers a general course on the principles of coaching, in addition to a mentoring program in which the new coaches receive guidance from the experienced coaches. And if you don't want to be a coach, there's other ways to help out as well. You can work behind the scenes by assisting in fundraising or organizing events or any of the other countless details involved in running a huge organization such as Special Olympics. It's also very important that you know that your contribution to Special Olympics can last from a day to a year to a lifetime, depending on the level of commitment that you're ready to make. No matter how you decide to help, I guarantee you that working with the Special Olympics will be immensely rewarding. As a coach, your instruction and support will help your athletes develop physical skills, while your interaction and friendship will help them develop socially. Rana Vanderslice, author of the article Special Olympics, Beneficial to All, reports that individuals who get involved in sports and recreation through Special Olympics develop larger networks of friends, are more likely to socialize with others, and receive more social support. But it's not just the athletes who benefit from Special Olympics. In my case, working with Special Olympics is one of the most gratifying things I have ever done in my life. Because not only do I have the satisfaction that comes from helping others improve the quality of their lives, but I've met so many amazing people and met so many great friends that really I would not trade the experience for anything. Now you know the need for Special Olympics volunteers, some ways that you can help out, and the benefits for the volunteers and athletes alike. So now I'd like to ask you to take the step of getting involved with the Special Olympics. If you want more information, you can check out the website for the Special Olympics or visit the local headquarters located on Monona Drive here in Madison. I also have brochures with contact information that I'll be handing out after the speech. I know that you may not have a lot of time available right now, but you can volunteer for the time that fits your schedule. The most important thing is to get involved in some capacity for whatever amount of time that you can manage. Remember the 9 children I mentioned at the beginning of this speech. Think of their happiness and their support for one another. Think of how much they gained from running in that race. And think of how you can help others experience the same benefits as they strive to fulfill the motto of the Special Olympics. Let me win, but if I can't win, let me be brave in the attempt.
Are you at least 17 years old? Do you weigh more than 110 pounds? Do you consider yourself fairly healthy? If you answered yes to all of these questions, you should be donating blood every 2 months. In my survey of the class, I found that only 50% of you have ever donated blood before, and that only 1 out of 13 of you donate on a regular basis. The lack of participation of eligible donors is a serious problem that requires immediate action. Through extensive research and 2 years of faithfully donating blood, I've come to realize the magnitude of this problem and just how easy the solution can be. Today, I would like to show why blood donors are in such desperate need and encourage you to take action to combat this need. Let's first take a look at the overwhelming need for blood donors. The lack of participation of eligible blood donors poses a threat to the lives of many Americans. According to the American Red Cross web pages, where I've obtained an enormous amount of information, in the United States alone, someone undergoes a blood transfusion once every 3 seconds, which amounts to 3,000 gallons of blood every hour, day and night. People who benefit from donations range from cancer patients to organ transplant patients to surgical patients. Even premature infants and trauma victims benefit from donations. The need for blood never takes a vacation, and neither should donors. Let me tell you about Brooke, a 3-year-old girl with long, curly blonde hair and bright blue eyes. Brooke is a victim of cancer and had major surgery to remove the large tumor in her abdomen. She has spent approximately half of her life in the hospital, receiving chemotherapy and other treatments for infections that resulted from a decrease in her white blood cell count after each session. According to the Texas Children's Hospital, Brooke's treatment will require blood products with a replacement value of 508 units of blood, of which only 250 units have been replaced. She still needs 250 units of blood to continue her treatment. If she doesn't receive this blood, she will not live to attend kindergarten, to go to the prom in high school, or to get married, luxuries we all too often take for granted. Cases like Brooke's are becoming all too common these days, with only 1 in 20 eligible Americans donating blood, and the donor rate dropping steadily at 2% annually. These facts are particularly distressing, considering that nearly half of us here will receive blood sometime in our lives. You can now see the magnitude of the problem with the lack of blood donations. Fortunately, it is a problem that can be easily solved. Each and every one of you can be part of the solution. All you have to do to save priceless lives is go to the nearest Red Cross and donate your blood. For those of you who have never donated blood before, the process is so simple and easy. First, you fill out a donor information form that asks you questions about your sexual history and health. You will then receive a mini physical. They will take a drop of blood from your finger to measure the % of red cells in your blood. Then, they will take your blood pressure, as well as your temperature and pulse. So not only are you saving lives by donating blood, you are also checking on your own. After your physical, you will be asked from which arm you choose to donate. Then, you will be asked to lie in a donor chair. A staff member will clean your arm and insert a sterile, non-reusable needle, so there's no way to contract AIDS from donating blood. After a pint of your blood has been taken, which usually takes about 10 minutes, you'll be asked to relax for 10 to 15 minutes while you enjoy juice and cookies. The process is over, and in 8 weeks you can donate again. Many of you may be scared at the thought of the anticipated pain and needles. I admit I was terrified the first time I gave blood, but then I realized I was scared over nothing. The extent of the pain as they insert the needle is equivalent to someone scratching your arm for a brief second. And while the needle is in your arm, you don't even feel a thing. And as I stated before, it is impossible to contract AIDS from donating blood. Now that you know just how easy and safe the solution is to the lack of blood donations, let us take a look at just how much difference your donations can make. Every unit of blood you donate can save up to 3 lives. You see, the blood you donate is divided up 3 ways, into red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Each of these are stored separately and used for different types of treatment. Red blood cells are used to fight anemia. White blood cells are used to fight infections, while platelets are important to control bleeding and are used in patients with leukemia and other forms of cancer. The joy you get from helping 3 people can be increased many times over. You see, you can donate blood 6 times in a year. Those 6 donations can help as many as 18 people. Just think, if you donated for 10 years, you could help save the lives of nearly 180 people. Who knows, one of those lives could even be that of a friend, family member, or even your own, since you can now donate blood in advance of your own surgery. Now that you know what a difference just one donation can make, I want to encourage you to take action. I urge you to take a stand and become a regular blood donor. 45 minutes out of your day is a small price to pay for the lifetime of satisfaction you receive by knowing you may have saved a life. If you have never donated blood before, pull deep inside yourself and find some courage and become a proud wearer of the I am a first-time blood donor sticker. If you have donated before, think back to the feeling of pride you received from making your donation. Finally, I ask all of you to think of a loved one you hold so dear to your heart. Imagine they need a blood transfusion and there's a shortage of donations that day, so they cannot receive the treatment that they so desperately need, just like Brooke, the 3-year-old girl that I talked about earlier. Go to the nearest Red Cross in Madison, which is on Sheboygan Avenue, or attend the next blood drive here on campus. These blood drives are held in various parts of campus, including the dorms. In fact, the next drive will be held in the Ogg Residence Hall in 2 weeks. Please, take this opportunity to save lives and make yourself feel like $1 million. Give the ultimate gift, the gift of life. Donate blood.
In the film The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, a boy born with a deficient immune system is forced to live in a germ-free environment to prevent him from contracting infections. His room is sealed against bacteria and viruses, his food is specially prepared, and his only human contact comes in the form of gloved hands. Today, millions of Americans are trying to build a bubble around themselves and their families to keep out germs. The bubble is not made of plastic, however, but of billions of dollars worth of antibacterial hand wipes, tissues, soaps, and sponges. Before I studied antibacterial products in my public health class, I always used antibacterial hand soaps and antibacterial all-surface cleaner for my apartment. I also know from my class survey that 70% of you use antibacterial soaps, cleaners, and other products. But after learning about this subject in class and reading research studies for this speech, I'm here to tell you that try as we might, we cannot build a bubble between ourselves and germs with antibacterial products, and that these products actually create more problems than they solve. After looking at the problems created by antibacterial products, we'll explore some solutions. The place to begin is by noting that antibacterial products are popping up just about everywhere. The next time you go to the store, try to find a liquid soap that is not antibacterial. According to the Alliance for the Prudent Use of Antibiotics, 75% of all liquid soaps and 33% of all bar soaps are antibacterial. In fact, there are more than 1,000 antibacterial household products on the market. In addition to all the soaps and cleaning products, there are also antibacterial cotton swabs, tons of antibacterial shampoos, and this antibacterial cutting board from Williams-Sonoma. You can even get antibacterial socks, mouthwash, toothpaste, and to protect you while away from home, this travel toothbrush with antibacterial bristles. The Boston Globe reports that larger items such as mattresses, countertops, high chairs, and even children's toys have been coated with antibacterial chemicals. The New York Times calls the antibacterial craze, quote, the biggest marketing coup since bottled water. There's no doubt that antibacterial products are popular with consumers, but there is a great deal of doubt about whether they are effective in stopping the spread of germs. Elaine Larson, Associate Dean of the Columbia University School of Nursing, studied 238 families who used antibacterial products and found that they were just as likely to get fevers, sore throats, coughs, rashes, and stomach problems as families who used regular products. Larson's findings are echoed by Eric Kupferberg, Associate Director of the Harvard School for Public Health, who states, antimicrobial products don't significantly eliminate the number of germs you encounter on a daily basis. Nor do antibacterial products prevent the transmission of diseases such as colds and flus. Why? Because these illnesses come from viruses, not from bacteria. Antibacterial products don't kill viruses. As Dr. Larson explains, most of the infections healthy people get are colds, flu, and diarrhea caused by viruses, none of which can be prevented by the use of antibacterial products. Not only do antibacterial products fail to deliver what they promise, but they actually increase your chances of getting sick. According to Stuart Levy, a professor of microbiology and medicine at Tufts University, excessive use of antibacterial products in the home can make children more likely to develop allergies and asthma. In addition, people who use antibacterial products may become more susceptible to infections. Dr. James Chin, a research scientist in New South Wales, Australia, says, the way we stay healthy is by low-dose exposure to bacteria and viruses. You need to exercise your immune system in the same way you need to exercise your muscles to be fit. If you don't do that, your immune system doesn't have a chance to do battle when it engages with an infection. The problems caused by antibacterial products are so serious that Dr. Myron Janelle, chairman of the American Medical Association's Council on Scientific Affairs, fears one result may be the creation of antibiotic-resistant bacteria that are largely untreatable because they are resistant to existing drugs. And that's not all. Besides being ineffective at preventing diseases and being potentially dangerous to our health, antibacterial household products also appear to harm the environment. Rolf Halden of Johns Hopkins University School of Public Health reports that each year the United States releases into the water supply more than 2 million pounds of the active chemicals in antibacterial soaps. The U.S. Geological Survey reports that chemicals from antibacterial products are winding up in streams and groundwater from the Denver area to remote locations in the Rocky Mountains. These chemicals are known to pollute the water supply, disrupt fish reproduction and growth, and because they do not decompose quickly, remain active for years and years. Now that we've seen the seriousness of the problem, let's look at some solutions. First, we need federal legislation regulating the use of household antibacterial products. Just as the Food and Drug Administration has regulations controlling the use of antibiotics, so too should it institute regulations controlling the use of antibacterial products. We don't let people purchase antibiotics without a doctor's prescription, and there's no reason we should allow makers of soap, tissues, hand wipes, toothbrushes, and other products to add powerful antibacterial agents without oversight from the Food and Drug Administration. Given the problems being caused by the products, it is time for the federal government to take action. Second, we all need to take action as consumers. Most obviously, we need to stop buying these products. The best way to avoid germs, says the Centers for Disease Control, is to wash your hands for 10 to 15 seconds with plain soap and water. In fact, a study at the University of North Carolina found that washing your hands with soap and water is more effective at getting rid of germs than using antibacterial hand wipes. Emily Sickbert-Bennett, a public epidemiologist and co-author of the study, explains that when you use soap and water, the germs go down the drain. But with waterless antibacterial hand wipes, you never rinse your hands. You are just rubbing a chemical into your hand and letting it dry. In conclusion, Americans spend millions of dollars every year on products that promise to kill germs on contact. But, as we've seen today, the antibacterial craze is a marketing coup rather than a proven way of stopping either the spread of germs or the incidence of colds, flus, and other virus-borne illnesses. Worse, these products appear to contribute to health problems, and they are creating environmental problems in the U.S. water supply. The federal government should start regulating these products, and we, as consumers, should stop throwing our money away on them. We need to resist the false notion that we can use these products to create a bubble around ourselves to keep out germs and disease. Instead, we can burst the bubble of marketers who are selling us a false bill of goods, and then we can thoroughly wash our hands of the whole mess.
Staring at a once beautiful valley, now filled with bodies that serve only as a reminder of the morning's gruesome events, a lonely gravedigger thinks to himself. Unable to fight in the Civil War because he is black, he can only bury the soldiers that fight and die for his freedom. In the movie Glory, this gravedigger is played by Morgan Freeman, and he is given his chance to fight as a member of the 54th Regiment of the Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry. The Massachusetts 54th was the first black regiment of the Civil War. Led by Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, the 54th showed remarkable bravery, patriotism, and sacrifice. Even though the North was opposed to slavery, many Northerners held on to anti-black attitudes. Because of these attitudes, the 54th was given dangerous assignments and equipped with substandard or even broken equipment. Wearing shoes no better than wrapped cloth, tattered uniforms that did little or nothing to ward off the cold, and using guns that would misfire every other shot, the 54th still proved to be one of the bravest regiments in the Civil War. On top of their bravery, the members of the Massachusetts 54th exhibited the highest levels of patriotism. Despite the racism and other struggles they faced, they were proud to wear their uniforms and to carry the Union flag into battle. Their patriotism can best be seen when one observes the number of deserters from this regiment. None. Despite the thousands of desertions suffered by many other regiments on the northern side, not a single soldier deserted from the Massachusetts 54th. I have spoken so far of bravery and of patriotism, but it is the sacrifice of the 54th that has etched them into the pages of history. The sacrifice occurred during the assault on Fort Wagner in 1863. This heavily guarded Confederate fort lay on the beaches of South Carolina, nearly unapproachable. A frontal assault was needed to weaken the fort enough to allow for a full-scale attack. It was a suicidal mission, but the 54th volunteered for it. They were the first regiment to storm Fort Wagner, and so would suffer the highest casualties. Rushing forward, they reached the fort well before any reinforcements that were supposed to back them up. Believing the reinforcements to be close behind, the 54th attacked Fort Wagner and found nothing but the enemy. When the charge was over, more than 250 soldiers from the regiment had been killed, wounded, or captured. To join an army who didn't believe in you, to fight with an army who didn't like you, to die for an army who didn't respect you. This was the Massachusetts 54th. Today, they lay where they died, on the beaches of South Carolina. Colonel Shaw and his men were piled together in a mass grave, which has since been covered by the shifting tides of the Atlantic. A small statue stands in Boston, a reminder of their sacrifice. Bravery, patriotism, and sacrifice. These are qualities of the Massachusetts 54th. With the help of their efforts, along with all of the other black regiments that followed, slavery did eventually come to an end. In the movie Glory, Morgan Freeman talks of his chance to fight for the freedom of his own people. The 54th grasped this chance. They fought for it, and they eventually died for it. In the words of Union General Truman Seymour, on every inch of the sands in front of Fort Wagner will be forever traced in undying glory the story of the determination and courage of the Massachusetts 54th.
The strongest person I know cannot peel a potato. The strongest person I know has trouble putting on her makeup. The strongest person I know needs a special key holder to turn the key in her car's ignition. For the past 15 years, my 47-year-old Aunt Sue has been living with rheumatoid arthritis, a painfully debilitating disease in which the joints of the body become intensely inflamed due to the immune system's activity. Yet despite the daily torments of this disease, my Aunt Sue is stronger than any woman or man I have ever met. Not a moment passes that my Aunt Sue is not confronted with this demon of a disease and reminded of her disability through the pills she must take and the pain she must endure. It hurts to stand, it hurts to walk, it hurts to sit. After an infinite number of failed medications, Aunt Sue is now undergoing her most aggressive treatment, which includes weekly oral chemotherapy. After half a dozen surgeries, her frail body is in need of still more. And yet, despite all of this, I can't recall ever hearing her complain about her fate. After all the indignities and inconveniences her illness has thrown at her, my Aunt Sue still finds the energy to devote much of her time not to herself, but to those less fortunate than her. This past Thanksgiving, for example, she helped organize a dinner for more than 500 poor and homeless people. My Aunt Sue, who has her medication put in non-child-proof containers so she can open them, helped coordinate a dinner for those in need. The picture I have painted of my Aunt Sue thus far is of a kind woman, a determined woman, a warm-hearted woman whose own suffering seems inconsequential when compared to that of others. This is all completely true. But here is something else about my Aunt Sue that makes me admire her so. Actually, it's what makes me love her as much as I do. At 5 feet 2 inches and 105 pounds with the spunk of a teenager, she introduces herself as Crazy Sue. And sometimes I'd have to agree with her. Somehow she is able to approach this demonic disease with a sense of humor. And not just any sense of humor. My Aunt Sue is one of the funniest people I know. Years ago, when the disease began to hit her really hard, one of the attorneys at her law firm asked her why she was limping. She told him she fell off a trapeze performing her weekend hobby, and he believed her. Following an ankle sprain and further complications, her ankle became deformed, and the arch of her foot completely collapsed. Whereas most people would wallow in their misery, Aunt Sue calls it her cartoon foot. My Aunt Sue has made a positive impression on countless people throughout her life, but I hope she knows how much of an impression she has made on me and how much I admire her. I complain about trudging through the snow to class, but I'm walking, pain-free. I complain about driving my friends around town, but I'm steering the wheel, pain-free. I complain about the final exams I'll have to write, but I have the mobility in my wrist to write pain-free. I've learned from my Aunt Sue that I need to do a better job about being happy for the things that I have, rather than worrying about the not-so-perfect things in my life. Aunt Sue may call herself crazy, but I call her phenomenal. A joy to be around, and a reminder that having a physical disability in no way diminishes a person's spirit or inner beauty.
As our University Marshal, Professor Dawson, escorts him forth, please join us in welcoming Mr. Sajid Shenoy, our student speaker for the 1996 exercises.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, faculty, staff, students, ladies and gentlemen, and most of all, the class of 1996. I can visualize the scene again and again. 11:30 p.m., Saturday night, the 15th of August, 1992, Bombay International Airport, India. I was leaving home for the University of Richmond. And as I said that final goodbye to my parents, my family, and my friends, and as I saw hope, expectation, even a tinge of sadness in their eyes, and as I stepped aboard the Boeing 747 in front, I knew my life had changed forever. The next 36 hours on board the aircraft were a time of questions, of concerns, of tremendous uncertainty. Had I made the right choice in leaving my parents, my family, my home? Had I made the right choice in leaving my country, my culture, my background? Had I made the right choice in choosing the University of Richmond? And then, of course, there was that one nagging question, that one overriding concern. As one of only 3 Indian students on a Richmond campus of 3,000, would I ever fit in? My country was different, my culture was different, my experiences were different, my background was different, my language was different, my accent was different. Would I ever fit in? And so here I was, high above the clouds, grappling with these questions of culture, of interaction, of ethnicity. And what I didn't know was that 30,000 feet below on the ground, the world was faced with these very questions. The question of culture, the question of interaction. And so whether my aircraft took off from Bombay, where the Hindus and the Muslims lived together in a most fragile peace, or whether my aircraft was over Africa, where the Hutus and Tutsis of Rwanda and Burundi had this long-standing animosity, or whether my aircraft was over Bosnia, where the Serbs, the Croats, the Muslims and the Bosnians had broken yet another truce. The question was the same. Could different cultures ever come together to reinforce one another? Ladies and gentlemen, 4 years after that bumpy aircraft ride, this young Indian student had found his answer. He had been witness to the 4 most spectacular years of his life. The academics were great, the extracurriculars were great, his graduate school plans were great. But what left an indelible mark on his mind was none of this. Not the GPA, not Stanford, no. Instead, it were those special moments. Those moments of human interaction, those human relationships that can never quite be translated into words. The time this young Indian student spent his first Thanksgiving dinner with his debate team coach. That Thanksgiving evening, when I had my first American turkey and saw my first American football game, not knowing the difference between a tackle and a touchdown. And yet, all of a sudden, just like this very different Indian student had become an inherent part of the great American tradition of giving thanks. The time I spent my first Christmas Eve with my journalism professor. That Christmas evening, when the relationship wasn't of a faculty member and a student anymore, but of 2 buddies who fought fiercely over every point in ping pong. The time I had a long and honest talk with an American friend on the eve of a calculus exam. I didn't learn much calculus that night, but what I did learn was that as different as we are, different countries, different cultures, different continents, inherently, we're still the same. The time in December '92, when India was hit by communal riots, when violence and bloodshed was but a few hundred yards from my family and my home, and when my fantastic roommate from freshman year sat up the entire night, giving me hope, strength, and courage at every step. Yes, 4 years after that bumpy aircraft ride, I have found the answer to culture. I have found that it has taken just a little understanding, just a little sensitivity, just a little open-mindedness, just a little empathy on the part of this community, this University of Richmond community, to change my life like never before. I have found it makes no difference what culture you follow, what your background is, what your experiences are, what language you speak, what accent you have. The commonality of the human bond far transcends these superficial differences. And yet, look around at the world today. Look around at the very regions that were faced with the same question of culture that I was faced with 4 years ago. Look at Bosnia, where between 92 and 96, 300,000 people have been slaughtered to death. Bosnians, Serbs, Croats, Muslims, all because they came from a slightly different heritage, or culture, or history. Look at Bombay, India, where in one maddening week, 92, 2,000 Indians, Hindus and Muslims, lost their lives fighting with one another. They fought over a mosque. They fought over a structure made of brick and mortar. 2,000 human beings lost their lives. Look at Africa, where between 92 and 96, 1 million Hutus and Tutsis lost their lives. Just comprehend that for one small second. Between the time you were a freshman and a senior, 1 million people lost their lives. Fighting over culture, over history, over background. Yes, just look at the madness around. The world has fought hard to highlight its differences. We have forgotten our inherent similarities. Why? All because what was missing was a little understanding, just a little sensitivity, just a little open-mindedness, just a little empathy. Two similar questions of culture in 92, two diametrically opposite results in 96. And so, to the class of 1996, I say, go and distinguish yourselves like never before. Go and get the best of jobs, the most rewarding of careers, go to the best of graduate programs, go and make a real difference in your communities. But not for one moment, ever forget the memory of these 4 years. The memory that just a little understanding, just a little sensitivity, just a little open-mindedness, just a little empathy on your part can mean the difference between complete despair for one young boy in Bosnia and remarkable hope for another young boy here at Richmond. Thank you.